I was among those applauding. Hadn't been to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 33 years, but I made the trek up to Cooperstown this past Saturday for one reason. I wanted to support my friend Tim Kurkjian on his well-deserved enshrinement. If I make it to this September, I'll have been a broadcaster for 20 years, and I've never known anyone as beloved as Tim. I first knew and appreciated his work in the pages of Sports Illustrated, and later enjoyed his work on ESPN. And then for 5 years, I actually got to work with him on Baseball Tonight, an experience for which I am forever grateful. Now, I love baseball, but no one loves baseball like Tim Kurkjian. He used to cut out box scores and tape them to his scrapbook for 2 decades. He wrote a book called I'm Fascinated by Sacrifice Flies, and his recall of players and anecdotes about them is the stuff of legend. I always found him remarkably polished on air. Never an or an never unsure of himself, always willing to jump in with a comment or well-timed quip that added to the show. We had a boss at ESPN who told me every talent he felt could be summarized by the 10-10-80 rule. 10% like you, 10% hate you, and 80% don't care. I shared this thought with our friend Jason Stark and said, he's 80% people like him, 10% don't, 10% don't care. By the way, Jason, a Hall of Famer in his own right and a real advocate for Tim's enshrinement. Jason looked at me and said, I understand the theory, but just one question. Who's the 10% that doesn't like Tim? He's more self-deprecating than Rodney Dangerfield. No respect, I tell you, ever. He would tumble down the hill at the Little League World Series with childlike glee. He once participated in a sausage race in Milwaukee. Wasn't exactly Usain Kurkjian, and it was not an experience he would relish. Get it? He said, I'm the worst dancer in the world, and he meant it. He once was approached by an excitable waiter who was thrilled to confirm that Tim, like he, was of Armenian descent. The waiter ran back and grabbed another Armenian working in the kitchen and ran back to Tim. I told my friend he has to meet Armin Katayan. The self-deprecation would sometimes border on self-loathing. I don't have a 4-head, I'm a 5-head. Whether it's Carl Ravitch or Eduardo Perez, they'll all tell you Tim is invaluable as a teammate. I don't know about a 5-head, but he's a true 5-tooled player. Writer, reporter, analyst, host, and historian. Tim is also a devoted and loving father. I once asked him how challenging fatherhood was, and he shrugged and said simply, my kids are great. They're easy. Now, that's something else to be envious of. His wife, Kathy, is the bedrock of the family, smartly running a household while her husband was off chasing stories. His son, Jeff, is a morning show host in Philadelphia, who has his dad's inimitable cadence and irrepressible charm. His daughter, Kelly, is the proud mother of Tim and Kathy's grandson, Carson. And just imagine the bedtime stories of Archie Vaughn that kid will be listening to in the crib. But again, it all comes back to the laughs. At the All-Star game in Miami, as we were being whisked off the field, I spied Pitbull. Made a beeline to him and told him, hey, you got to meet a huge fan of yours. I brought him to a 5'5" baseball lifer who just stared dumbfounded as Pitbull extended his hand in the most awkward of bro hugs and said, I heard you're a huge fan. Mr. 305, beat Mr. Baseball. How about when Tim cleverly painted a picture of arguably the greatest third baseman of all time, and in discussing his strength and dexterity said Mike Schmidt could move a piano and he could play one too. Long pause as a dumbfounded Rick Sutcliffe blurted out, I had no idea that Schmidt could play the piano. Tim and I always laughed at his mentor, Dan Shaughnessy, after Red Sox outfielder Carl Everett said he didn't believe in dinosaurs, referred to Everett forever after as Jurassic Carl. On first reference, Tim would explain. This past Saturday, Tim was at his best. There was a roar from the crowd when his name was first announced, and he rose to the occasion. Johnny Bench was there. 15 minutes. He didn't look at his notes once. It was hilarious and heartfelt. He choked up when he mentioned his brothers, Andy and Matt, the latter his best friend who's been diagnosed with ALS. He choked up when we all do, when we talk about our parents. Tim's father taught him this reverence for baseball, and his mother gave him the gift of writing. I remember Tim always, after late night Baseball Tonight, making the trek home 6 hours back to look after his mother, who battled dementia later in life. He was an admirable and dutiful son who always prioritized what was most important while never sacrificing his career. He and I will continue to share a fondness for movies like Steve Zalian's film of a chess prodigy, Searching for Bobby Fischer, or Alfred Hitchcock's marvelous Strangers on a Train. There will be inside jokes via calls and texts, but now and forever, he's a Hall of Famer. I asked him afterwards when he looked a little fatigued how he memorized the speech and how could he be so flawless. He said, fear of failure, Adnan, that's what's driven me my whole life. If I make a mistake, it just kills me. If I missed a free throw, it would just eat me up. I practiced this speech 200 times, including 3 times this morning, because that's how much this day meant to me. Baseball endures for different generations because of the childlike zeal of people like Tim Kurkjian, who never let cynicism impact his boyish enthusiasm. The best among us make it look effortless, and Tim is no different. Congrats, my friend. You're a Hall of Famer, and you've earned it. Back here with Ron Darling and Ruben Amaro Jr. You're already laughing.
I know Tim and love Tim, and I was just thinking if he was here, I would say that was the longest tie for anyone that's 5 foot 5 inches tall of all time. But
He'd say the same thing.
You know, when I was drafted 41 years ago, first person for the Dallas Morning News, I was drafted by the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
That asked me a question was Tim.
Oh wow.
And I know that most reporters around baseball, there's we said 80, 10, 10, right?
Yeah.
Some people will have issues with some of the things they've done. No one has that issue ever with Tim because they know deep down he loves ball players and he loves the game. And that's very rare.
Yeah, that's the same sort of thing. I think about Dave Montgomery, who was our president in Philadelphia. There's not one person in the world who would say a bad word about him. I compare Tim Kurkjian to exactly that. There's not a person in all of baseball, and it's not just because he's interested or he knows everything about you or he knows your entire background. It's because he genuinely loves baseball. He is humbled by the fact that he gets to do this every single day, and he's so infectious with the comments. Everything that he says about baseball makes you go, this is why I love the game again. It's about Tim.
Yeah, Carl Ravish did a great piece before Tim was introduced there at the Hall of Fame. And again, talking with the baseball reference, he mentioned the greatest shortstops in baseball, and he had Archie Vaughn on his list. And Derek Jeter at the time went up to Tim and goes, "Tell me more about Archie Vaughn."
Yeah,
like, it's cool when the players themselves are going to people like him to be educated and learn more about the game.
You know, we live in a world now, if you don't have the answer, you Google it and you kind of figure out what the answer is going to be, or you see it. Yeah. Tim is our baseball encyclopedia. If you want to know something about a player that's played 100 years ago or played 100 days ago, he will know more about that player than anyone else.
One issue about him, though, very, very perpetually early for an airport. Like if it's
3 hours?
Oh my God, 3 hours! And I said, "Where are we going? India? Like this is a domestic flight." But no, he liked to be if it was a noon flight, he's there at 7 a.m. just to get breakfast.
He's getting on the flight first too. He's the first person on the flight.
He's got to be on there right away, pacing with nervous energy the whole time. Congrats, Tim. We love you.